Hey there, friends. Happy Thursday, December 14th. I have an announcement of sorts. An announcement seems bigger than probably what it is, so I want to manage expectations as much as possible. But about 2 weeks ago, I made a post on social media, which was actually off a snippet of a text thread that I had between a friend of mine who's in MMT, who said that they were very bummed out that we weren't doing a gathering in 2024. And it's funny because Candace and I made the announcement that we weren't doing a gathering in 2024 at our gathering in September in Ojai, which was our 10th year anniversary gathering. And up until that point, we were doing a gathering every 6 months as far as a cadence. So to share that we weren't going to do a gathering in 2024 was probably a big shock for a lot of folks in the community. But we were making that sacrifice to create space for something that would not only benefit me personally, but benefit the community for the next kind of decade to come. And there's so many directions I can go as far as kind of sharing what I'm leaning into. But I will say one of the things that gave me permission to lean into this as much as I am is in Ojai, I facilitated a Q&A with a gentleman named Will Guadara, who wrote a fantastic book called Unreasonable Hospitality. And historically, Q&As, I would say, are not my strong suit. I think I'm okay at them, but I'm not great. And usually when we do an MMT gathering, I'm lucky enough to be supported by a great team, and Candace leads a huge part, especially of like the operations behind the scenes stuff when it comes to live experiences. And that space has freed me up. For the last couple gatherings, I've been able to use that added space and energy to kind of focus on one area specifically. And leading up to MMT Ojai, one of the things I really wanted to do was see if I could have a refreshing take on a Q&A and really elevate what a Q&A is. And ultimately, the Q&A went well. It went beyond my expectations. After the Q&A was done, I had a handful of MMTers come up to me, some in tears, that it was like so meaningful for them to kind of witness a Q&A like that. Folks were talking about it at the event, after the event, in the feedback forums on social media, and that kind of stuff. So very humbling and very awkward to even just bring voice to. But the funny thing is after the Q&A, I had a handful of friends, especially some I respected immensely in this space. They were like, you need to teach a masterclass on how to facilitate a Q&A like that. And I said, there is nobody who would want to sign up for a masterclass like that, because that Q&A was as a result purely of deep work, and a lot of it. I spent easily well over 100 hours preparing for that Q&A and pulling photos and mashing them together and building a storyline and all that kind of stuff. And when we made the decision to not do an MMT gathering in 2024 to create space for this upcoming project, I got an extra sense of kind of validation from that Q&A that what is available to us when we focus deeply on something and intensely on something and allow ourselves to be consumed by something, it can really cut through the noise of just the time we live in with like artificial intelligence and like quick tweets and trying to get like people's attention span and that kind of stuff. To really stand out, to really create something memorable, requires an unreasonable amount of focus and energy. But the product of that is meaningful. So all this to say, I am leaning into doing a book in 2024. And I originally positioned this as the the anti-book deal, the $1.8 million anti-book deal, because we didn't sign with a traditional publisher, and it's funny not funny we didn't. I've been lucky enough to have a front row seat to a lot of folks in the publishing space, or who have launched very successful nonfiction books over the last 12 years. So, for example, Ryan Holiday, I've known Ryan prior to him writing any books, and he's written, I think, on average 1.3 books every year for the last decade, all nonfiction, many of them New York Times bestsellers. Had an opportunity. We had James Clear join us at MMT a handful of times when he had a simple blog, and have had a front row seat to his growth, seeing him publish Atomic Habits, which now has sold over 15 million copies. And oddly enough, the reason James Clear ended up writing Atomic Habits was as a result of an interaction between him and Ryan Holiday at an MMT event. And I share this only to, I guess, illustrate that, like, I have a lot of friends in this space. I know this space well. I have relationships with agents and publishers and that kind of stuff. And I know with enough kind of elbow grease, I could muster up a publishing deal with maybe a small little advance or something like that. But for me, as I look at this upcoming project, creative control is everything to me. And I've seen enough friends of mine who have gone the traditional publishing route fight with publishers around titles, book cover designs, the content of their books. And sometimes there's a philosophy called deal fatigue when you are your business is getting acquired, where it's almost like a strategy by the acquirer sometimes of like drawing things out, and towards the end you're just so done with it and you want the deal done that you're willing to compromise on things that you wouldn't otherwise. And I've seen that with friends that have navigated things in the publishing space. And these are not friends who have, again, small books. These are big name authors who've written like blockbuster hits. So if they run into that level of friction with publishers, for me as like a no name, I have, little to no leverage. And for every ounce of energy I put, going back and forth with a publisher, to me is like a pound of energy that it's taking away from creating the best product I can in a book. So ultimately have decided to do a book, not going traditional. I'm going with a hybrid publisher. And a hybrid publisher, for context, what's the best way to explain it? I have a lot of friends in this space who have businesses that help, they may have programs that help authors go from like zero to published author in 8 weeks, and are effectively, better business cards or what have you. And it's not a judgment. There's a space for it and that kind of stuff. But for me, again, pulling back to that Q&A I did with Will, I am deeply committed to creating the best book I can, and have been designing my life in a way to cultivate the space to do that, and also align the relationships I need to do that as well. So all this to say, it'll be an interesting year ahead of me. I don't have an actual kind of publication date. I have been working on the book for the last 3 months, and it's been going very, very well. I did make mention early on to a handful of friends who did know that it was exciting because I was putting out all like the puzzle pieces, but I'm like, I know I'm very much in the honeymoon phase right now, and it's going to get increasingly harder because I have so many friends who've gone through this process, and I find myself now in the depths, not depths of despair, because I've cultivated the habits to like push through this, and I already made strong commitments, and I was already very aware that this was not going to be an easy process every step of the way. But I find myself in the outline process right now, which can be a little challenging, where you have all these puzzle pieces on the table and you're trying to kind of get them together. So that's the announcement of sorts, and I'm very, very excited for it. One of the things I think I made mention of, and if I didn't, I apologize. But this is going to effectively cost us over $1.8 million as far as missed revenue when it comes to MMT next year. And that doesn't account, working with this publisher and the other opportunity costs that I'm turning down in order to make space for kind of this book. But for me, I'm playing in the decades and not the days. I know this book, if done well, can do wonders as far as where I want to go in the next decade, where Candace and I want to go together in the next decade, where we want to go with MMT in the next decade. So sometimes you're going to sacrifice your todays for better tomorrows, and that's kind of where I find myself. So if you want to be, I guess, stay in the loop, so to speak, if you watch this video its entirety thus far, it's incredibly humbling. But if you want to be a part of my journey, I am doing a little bit of a communications list of sorts. I've historically had like an email list for very close friends where I'd send an annual email, but I'm actually pulling out a little bit, and I'm going to have an email that I'll send out periodically pertaining to my progress with the book, some of the challenges I'm running into with the book, some of the wisdom of the book, and even test some things out with some of these emails. But one of the things I've been working on the last 2-3 months specifically is building this second brain, which is ultimately a collection of like all my thoughts, quotes I've captured over the years, and getting into one centralized place. And it is incredibly powerful. It's something I will include in an email in the near future. But I mean, the amount of wisdom I've been able to just like centralize into one place, which I'm very excited to kind of share with the world, not only in the context of the book, but also in the context of this email as well. So the sun is coming up, so I don't want to ruin this video, but I appreciate you all. A couple emails I have coming out. One is around a mantra that has helped me stay focused thus far. And it's also a mantra that I've seen very successful entrepreneurs use pretty consistently, and it's not talked about for some reason. I'm working on another email around the building of a second brain. And then also I find myself in a position right now where I'm setting rules and boundaries, and also very much exploring my relationship with saying no. So if you want a front row seat to all of that and more, it would be an honor for you to join that communications list. You can get access to it by going to JaysonGainard, so JasonGainard.com, and you'll see how to kind of join there. But look forward to keeping you all up to date, and have a great week.